everybody. We are live. Just give it as normal. A few minutes for everybody to touch in here. Maybe a little bit. Let's just sit back and relax for a bit. Listening to a little bit of transmission here. Alright, so everybody popping in. Welcome. Say hi in the comments so I can see who's all here. We'll get started in a few minutes. That'll be a good time to share the post. Father. Okay, maybe someone's running on YouTube today. You're welcome if you are. Feel free to share the YouTube link. You're out. On Facebook as well. I'm sharing this out to my feed and inviting my friends. Tell them that they're snowed in today. Join us on for Bible study. If I can spell "for" right, not "gore." And thankfully, well, not thankfully, but because of the snow, Jake's wrestling practice got canceled. And so my wife is hoping to join us. She's actually on her way home in the snow, so we should be able to get there. Right, I think. Supposed to say hello to my friend Felicia. got a text there, Christmas stuff. Hi, Felicia. Hoping you turn over to check us out, Facebook or YouTube. All right, folks. So as you see on the bottom, Mark 35, where we are. One more minute. Make sure you say hello in the comments. And if you want to join us live, else posted a link. You can jump on camera and say hello. Ask questions, make a comment. Love to have you. Well, welcome everybody. Another week of a Bible study here. I'll go ahead and kill the music for right now as we get started. I see a couple more people have joined us. Hellos. And again, those that are joining us, if you want to jump on camera at any point, say hello. Hello, Felicia. See, I told you I would shout you out. If at any point you want to jump on the camera to say hello, to have a question, to have a comment, feel free to click on that link that are in the comments there. Make sure that you got you a cup of Joe or anything else. This one goes out for Felicia. There you are. You can see my at work cup. Darlene, hello, hello. Donna, hello, hello. All right. Well, I am still here in the office. It's been Christmas season is upon us. Thanksgiving season is upon us. Our gym is filled with food. There are Christmas decorations up in the multi-purpose room getting ready for troops tomorrow, our troops Christmas party. Tomorrow begins our first day of red kettles, and so those are going out tomorrow. We're going to be having a push with our they're going to come out and cover, media's coming out to cover our kids' Christmas party, and so tomorrow's going to be a busy day, a good day, and things are really happening here quickly. And so this will be we're going to put a bookmark in the Bible study starting this week. Starting next week, and we'll pick this back up in January, and so I'm looking forward to that as we're starting to really get into the heart of this, into Mark and following Francis Chan, and we're really starting to look at Jesus's path in a different light and a different direction. And last week talking, we're going all over just Jesus's appointing of his 12 disciples and who they were, and the backgrounds, and I don't know how much I hit it, but I've really been thinking, that we really don't appreciate how flawed the people that followed Jesus were, and on purpose. Jesus taking and picking the men that he picked. And last week we were talking about how Jesus picked them, and that's who he was going to pour into and have the trickle out effect. And not everything he said was intended for the
the big wider audience, that he put it there so that they could figure it out, and then he poured into the disciples and answer questions. But what the scriptures don't really cover, that I'm fairly positive Jesus did, was he really poured into them how they needed. And you can see these examples. You can see the way he talks to Peter and talks to him in a loving way and in a reassuring way, because Peter was a hothead. And so meeting Peter where he was, and just the way that he talks and talks to John, and being a brother, being close to him, and the closeness of that relationship. And John may have needed a little more, I don't want to say coddling, a softer approach. Very much like a coach when he's talking to his players. You have your coach that's going to hit you in the helmet and tell you, get your buns out there and do what you got to do. And then you got the coach that's going to pull you in and go, listen, like, you can do this, and I'm right here with you. And so as we looked at there, we see Jesus really ministering on a one-on-one. And I think today in the church that's missing. And I'm as guilty of it as a pastor. We are so busy as Army officers, and that's one of our faults. It's one of our downfalls, unfortunately, is that we can tend to be so busy that we don't have the time to, or we don't adjust and prioritize time properly. And that's something I know that my wife and I are working on and want to get better at, and really, to get in, because it's worth it. Somebody did it for us, and somebody did it for you, and so I pray that we can continue that on. But so that's kind of where we were last week, and we put a little bit of a pin on that, on what we went over last week. This week we're traveling with Jesus as he's going out to sea, going on a trip. And I'm looking here at the questions, and it says here some stuff to consider in the lesson. And have you ever taken a risk in your life? I want you to think about that right now. Have you ever taken a risk? I'm not talking skydiving. I'm not talking, jumping. I see I'm getting joined here. You give me the thumbs up when you're ready to go. All right. There you go. You can add yourself. Welcome, Captain Jen.
Howdy, howdy.
It says, taking a risk, reaching out for a new job, moving someplace to a new town that you weren't, sure of, something, sending something in to get critiqued, maybe a writing or a drawing or something, entering something into a contest. These are all risks that we can take. And Felicia says, hello, beautiful Jen.
Hello, Felicia. Welcome to Bible study.
And so we think about all these. I kind of throw that out, and you can put it in the comments if you want, a risk that you've taken in your life. And I've got my own brain thinking of different things, and officership is definitely one. I go actually more probably to some of my school reports in college in the last couple of years. Has been a risk. Some of the things not so much like the quality of work, but sometimes the subject matter that I pick, my wife's afraid we're going to get in trouble for. But yeah, it's here, there. But
so I know that I'm just getting in, but are you thinking about about risks? Oh, like Darlene said, just getting married.
Yes. That's a big risk.
I was thinking about I just submitted my audition videos for a course.
Mm-hmm.
So, they've received the videos, and I should hear something back after the holidays. So, that's a big thing, putting myself out there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know plenty of people said, "Oh, you're great, you're great, you're great." But then putting it out there, for people who make decisions, and, no matter what happens, even just getting some feedback,
Right.
it's appreciated. But it's still, it was scary hitting that send button.
It is. I just realized what mine would have been. Auditioning to be on WWE Network 2 years ago.
Yep.
Now, or a year and a half ago now. And the follow-up question, you can't answer this yet. Darlene, you can, based on your risk, but was the wait worth it? We don't know yet for you, Cap, with that. For me, I know I can say 1,000%. Let me pull this up because it's a big one. Felicia says, my risk of moving to Boston by myself without my family. It's definitely hard, but I'm so glad I took the risk. I learned so much about myself, my walk with God, though it did get better when my brother and sister, that would be me and Jen, ended up getting moved by God's grace, put us about an hour and a half from her. And I had the line of my family I was missing. It was truly scary and glad I faced the fear. Yeah, that was cool. It was a total happenstance. She moved there first, and then we got sent there by the Army, and that was really cool. And so, yeah. But I can say I think the wait for that worked. She answered the question in her reply there. Was worth the wait for you to find out if it was worth it. For me, it was worth it. I met some incredible people. I got to have experiences with my family and kids that are literally on like streaming services now. My kids can see themselves on a streaming service, like how us in the office. And I just was talking with a friend of mine that I've made who's an on-air personality and people behind the scenes, and really cool experience. So we take risks, and when we do, we weigh the risk-reward ratio, if we will. Well, in this passage, we're going to find that several people are risking everything when they are connecting. Thank you, Darlene. I wasn't going to push you on it, but Darlene said, it was worth it. It was worth it. So a lot of people, we find that they're risking everything to connect with Jesus, and they decide the potential negatives are worth the rewards in following him. So we're going to go ahead and jump in with Francis Chan here as he goes into the Sea of Galilee and in the service. So if you have make sure you have your Bible open and follow along, and we'll kind of recap after we hear from him on this. So we will bow out and we will let Francis take over.
On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat just as he was, and other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing. And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith? And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? Don't just look at this and go, okay, that's a cool Bible story. No, this is real, like a real person, like this happened. Like I am on the Sea of Galilee right now, okay, in a boat. And I'm just imagining like this water coming onto the boat where it's just out of control and me believing I'm going to die inside of this boat and waking someone up here and him just speaking to the wind and the waves and saying, be still, and everything just boom, going flat. Like, what would I do? The disciples didn't go, wow, that was amazing. No, it says they were filled with great fear and said, who is this? Okay, I knew he was a teacher. I saw him heal some people. I saw the casting of the what? The wind and the waves obey him. Who do we have in the boat? They were terrified. But look at what Jesus says to them when they wake him up. He's like, he looks at them, he goes, why are you so afraid? What are you guys afraid of? Wasn't it obvious our boat is taking on water? There's a storm out here. And Jesus just looks at him and he asks, have you guys, seriously, you still have no faith? You seriously don't believe? What did you think? That I was going to die and let us all die? Do you not understand that I'm in control of everything? And I look at the expectation that Jesus had for those men back then. And we could look at that story and go, yeah, those disciples, man, they saw him with all this power, healing and everything else, and still they're afraid. You gotta understand, he expects that from us today. And we should, when I read the New Testament, it doesn't say that it's going to be more difficult now because Jesus is no longer physically on the boat with us. No, what I read in the New Testament is that it's actually that we have an advantage over the disciples. And so with every storm, whatever we're going through, we're supposed to believe he's literally here. Why am I afraid of anything? Like, I want to just walk around now for the rest of my life going, I'm not afraid of anything. Nothing can happen to me. He is literally with me because I have faith. Man, if there's still fears in your life and everything else, it's because you don't really believe that he's there. And it's the same question and even deeper now. Now, internally, there's a change and Jesus is with you. And he's saying, why are you afraid? You still don't believe? And as Jesus went throughout this region, after that, he goes over to the area, the Gerasenes, and that's where the demon-possessed man is. And everyone in that village understood, like, this guy is terrifying. Like, he's out of control. And Jesus just speaks to the demons that are in him, and the demons leave, and they see these pigs come rushing down this hill and drowning themselves because the demons went into the pigs. And what it says about them is they don't go, whoa, that was amazing. You know, like we do in our Bible studies, like, wow, could you imagine? No, it says they were terrified. They were afraid. And it says they begged Jesus to depart from their region. Can you just try to imagine how terrifying this is? And while we can judge them and say, wow, why would they tell them to leave? Because they didn't want Jesus to interrupt them in their life. You're talking about a power that interrupts everything. And they're saying, I want to get back to my life. And that's people today. You know, I don't want you to interrupt. I like life as it is. I don't want someone with that much authority and power coming in because he has to take over as the king, as the Lord. And he leaves there, and that's when Jairus, talks about his daughter and how she's dying, and Jesus, will you come? And so he starts heading there, and then the woman that has the bleeding touches his cloak, and it's that whole beautiful scene of his power over her illness, and him just feel like someone just touched me, and the disciples are like, "What do you mean? Everyone's pressing." He goes, "No. This was different. It was this woman who had this faith, and she just knew, like, I've got to get to him. I've got to touch him. Like, that's who we want to be. Not like everyone else that's pressing in. It's like, no, I'm going to press in with more faith, and I'm going to go reach out. And is that you? Or are you that one person in the crowd that's just like, I'm going to go after this 100%? And to me, the most touching part is then when you get to the actual girl that he goes to heal, everyone's saying, she's already dead. If you had come earlier, if you would just come a little bit sooner. And Jesus is saying, look, she's not dead. She's sleeping. And they laughed at him. And it says in verse 41, taking her by the hand, he said to her, Talitha Kumi, which means, little girl, I say to you, arise. And immediately the girl got up and began walking, for she was 12 years of age. And they were immediately overcome with amazement. Okay. What I understand of that phrase, and I'm no scholar, but that word, that phrase, little girl, was not just, from what I've studied, not just little girl. It would be a term of endearment. Try to get your mind around this. It would be like, like when you're looking at a little girl and you're saying, come here, sweetie. Try to get your mind around this. You're talking about the king of the universe. Okay, comes down to the earth, and he's just like calming the sea, like stop. Boom. Everyone's terrified. You see a demon-possessed man, it's like, get out of him. Boom. These pigs come rushing down, healing. And then he comes to a little girl, and is not only his power over death, but even the way he does it is like, come here, sweetie. Like, it blows my mind that we live in a time and in a country and in a quote unquote church, if you can even call it that anymore, where we're just like begging people, please, just show up, just pray a little bit, try to read the Bible, for a few minutes every day. We're like begging you to follow a person who can calm the seas and cast out demons and then look at a little girl and says, come here, sweetie. Like, you're not begging him. We should be like that guy who had the demons cast out, who it says that he was begging Jesus, can I follow you? Can I follow you? Can I follow you? Man, like, where is your life right now? Like, do you even get this? This is not just a bunch of little stories. It's about following the King of the universe that has power over death, over the waves and the sea, over the demons, and says to you, little girl, come here, sweetie. Rise from the dead. A God of compassion. And we have to beg you to fit him into your life? Man, where's your faith? Beg him today and say, God, I'll leave everything if I can be with you.
So that one was pretty powerful stuff. I gotta apologize first off for the last couple of weeks. Donna, you were telling me before about the echoing. It turns out it's because I've had my mic not muted, and so the computer is going into my mic. there's so much in this passage, and that's why I didn't read it, because there's so many verses in this passage, and I didn't want it to go on. And I definitely think it's worth reading back over. But the starting off with Jesus calming the storm. Hey, bud. Jesus calming the storm. And it's so interesting because, he gets up and he says, let's go to the other side, leaving the crowd behind. Again, him realizing he needs to get away, recognizing his own body, recognizing his own spirit, recognizing he needed sleep. And he says that he's in the stern of the boat and he's sleeping. And the disciples woke him up saying, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" And he gets up and rebukes the wind, and he looks at them and said, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Let's put the brakes on for a second. All right. Think about what has happened up to this point. Okay. They have witnessed him literally, like Rocky style, being chased by crowds down the street, lines of people to get healed. We're talking he's healing hundreds of people at a time. And that's what we were talking about before. And that's why he's getting away. And he's saying, let's go from here. We've got to move. This crowd is overtaking him, essentially. So they're seeing all of that. They're seeing people flocking to him. They're seeing demon-filled people dropping to the ground because the demons recognize who he is. And they're afraid of the rain and the wind. And he gets up and says, have you guys not been watching? Have you not been seeing what's been happening? Where's your faith? Why are you still afraid? And so I won't go political, but during COVID, one of my pet peeves was that a group of people, mainly in the church, stood up against everything that was happening, trying to make a political statement about what to wear on your face, what to get in your arm, any of that, by saying faith over fear. Faith over fear. Faith over fear. By essentially insinuating, do what you want to do, you're covered. But I go back to the word fear in the Bible, the way it's intended in most cases is not a fear of the boogeyman fear. It's respect. It's knowing what is in front of you. When you fear God, you know what is in front of you. You have a respect for it. You fear fire. You respect what it is. And so here, Jesus is saying, why are you so afraid? Almost saying kind of what the faith over fear really was. Why are you scared of this? Why are you, have you no faith in what I've seen, what I can do? And we see this later on, that fear and respect kind of come back more later on in this. But this is the first portion of that.
I wonder if it was parted to them that everything that they had been seeing involved people.
Yeah.
And just so you can, not that it's easy to
That's the plow. Here it comes.
Not that you can really, it's hard enough to try to wrap your mind around that.
Right.
Somebody having control over humans and, even angels and demons, and that. But the thought of somebody can control like the weather, listens to him.
Right.
Like that's now. Wait a minute. I can understand people listening to you. You're telling me that the waves are going to listen to you.
Right.
That is crazy.
And so he says here, why are you so afraid? And he is talking boogeyman. And then the next verse, it says they were terrified. That's the fear. That's the respect. That's not the boogeyman fear. That is, who is he? And that's what they say. Who is this? Who is this? What's this? What's this? You know, and who is what? It's a light bulb moment. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Do we so often go and say, like, we see miracles in front of us all the time. We do. We see it all the time. And yet it takes a light bulb moment for us to get it. I'll share the story. He's not watching. Last night, Jake is in amateur wrestling. He began 3 weeks ago now. And he's loving it. And he's starting to pick up on it. But Jake is one of the biggest kids in the class, the new kids. And but Jake has never done really any organized sports or anything. And he hasn't really had contact sports a lot. So he hasn't learned how to control his body, how to keep falling, how to know that there's pain. Every sport you play, there's a level of pain that comes with it. And so he's still getting used to that. So you can see it in his head when he goes to hit the mat to what they call shoot. He stutters at the last second. Or if he's going to go and try to grab his opponent, he doesn't want to hurt them, and so on and so forth. And the coaches have told him, like, you know, it's a very short time that he's been doing this, but, you know, tells them all, listen, there's an element of pain in this. Like, you're trying to manipulate another human into a position that they don't want to be in. So last night, he is sparring with this kid, and Jake's in the down position, and kid gets on top of him, and kid's trying to roll him over. And I'd said to him, like, Jake, you're a big boy. If you don't want to get pinned, your body can make sure that doesn't happen. And this kid was trying to roll him over, and he kind of scratched him, like the kid scratched Jake, and Jake popped right up. And I was like, oh man, he's gonna either cry or he's going to get mad or something. And he pops up and he looked at the kid and said, you can't do that. It's not done here. That's not how we do this. And he didn't react. He didn't freak out. He turned to the kid. He said, now it's your turn to get down. And all of a sudden I'm seeing Jake like I've never seen him before. And Jake got down and he hooked the kid and flipped him and pinned him and told the kid, get up. And the kid got up, and Jake dove in and got him on a single leg and wrapped his arm around and popped up, and the kid went down. And I said to my wife, I said, Jake had his Bobby Boucher moment. If you've ever seen The Water Boy, you know what I'm talking about. He's had his Bobby Boucher moment. But then all of a sudden he came back, and I said, Jake, I'm so proud of you. You didn't let your anger get out of control, and you used it in there. But it went off in here. And he got it. And the rest of the night, I saw him either being competitive or winning. And he was, because he got it. The disciples, this is a moment they've seen people lowered through the roof to get healed, and they took this. And so I always find that very, very interesting. That a lot of times we just need that moment that means something to us, where we are brought into it. We are kind of in need for us to get it. And that's what the disciples hear. And then so Jesus, this is like bam, 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 bam for Jesus. They they get across, and he gets out of the boat, and the evil spirits, this man with evil spirits comes to him. He sees Jesus from a distance and ran and fell on his knees. And remember, this is not the first time that we've read that the demon-possessed men were falling. They recognize Jesus. They recognize the evil, right? Or the evil recognizes him wherever he goes. And he, from a distance, so he probably would have been, Jesus would have been coming off of the boat. He would have been probably high up on a hill or something, within sight distance or shouting distance, because we know this because later on. So he's probably up here, and he sees, and he yells down because Jesus can't get to him right away. And he yells down to Jesus and says, "Do what you want with me. Just don't torture me. Like, don't prolong this. Whatever you're going to do, don't prolong this. Just do," because he recognized, this is important to realize, that evil recognizes they've got no chance when Jesus is there. They give up right away, because if you can't win, why try? And he gives up. And Jesus has come out. The man asks him his name. He says, "We are legion, for we are many." So this man who'd been living in the tombs didn't just really have one spirit. He had multiple living in him. And they're all trembling at what Jesus will do. And there's a herd of pigs. And Jesus says, "Get out." And they go into the pigs. And the pigs go and do a suicide dive off of the cliff, literally, and they rush down. Look at the number, 2,000. You want to picture what this looks like? It's a morbid thought. The hyena scene in Lion King. I know, before Mufasa dies. But it's one of my favorite scenes. Lion King was the first movie both of us saw in the theaters, and it was one of my it actually changed the way I look at movies, because it's one of my favorite scenes, and it's actually one of the first computer generated scenes in Disney history, but that's another story. But the scene where you just see the hyena, or not the wildebeest, and they just start coming over the horizon, and they pan up, and it's just a herd of them coming. That scene looks very overwhelming, but if you really think about it, that's only probably maybe 100 or 200 of them. But it looks massive. These are 2,000 pigs. That's how many evil spirits were there in this man. 2,000 pigs. And they're all running and jumping and as a herd coming off the cliff. Like, could you imagine picturing this and seeing this all from Jesus yelling, "Get out of him. Get out of him." And the pigs, it said that those tending to the pigs ran off and reported it into the town. There's always a witness. Wherever there's a miracle, there's always a witness. And when they came, the people then came rushing out, because I think, hey, 2,000 pigs, swanton bombing off of a cliff is something that the town would probably want to come out and see. And they see Jesus. They see the man who had been possessed sitting there with his in his right mind, they said, and they were afraid. We're back to that word, afraid. Respect. Not boogeyman. Respect. This is a big deal. How did this happen? Who did this? And when the demon-possessed man told all the story, corroborated about the pigs, And they turned and told Jesus to get out. It's interesting. I love how Francis Chan puts it in there, because they didn't want him disrupting their life. There was a comfort level in the way they were living. There was a comfort level in what was happening. Because think about it. I don't think that they would necessarily be thinking that Jesus is evil if Jesus just decimated 2,000 evil spirits, right? Like, that doesn't line up. However, they may be thinking, if they found them in him, if he found them in him and got rid of them, what's he going to find in us? What's he going to find in us? And they say, get out. And Jesus does. Jesus puts no argument. He doesn't fight. He doesn't, are you sure? He doesn't, none of that. Says, he's getting in the boat. All right. You don't want me? I'll go. Jesus never forces himself on anybody. Ever. Ever. That's what free will is. And he's the only God, lowercase g, of gods, that's the fact. If you are, if you are a Muslim, Allah is mandatory. Abraham is mandatory. Like, there's no, matter of fact, there's grave consequences if you rebuke him. I don't mean to keep bringing up wrestling so much, but I will. There was just a wrestling show in Saudi Arabia, and I found it very interesting that one of the wrestlers who was a Muslim and now is an atheist couldn't go, because in that country, that's a penalty. That's a crime that's penalized by death. Being a Muslim and then renouncing the belief in God and belief in Allah, it could be murdered. And that's that was interesting to me. But for us, we can turn it off like a light switch. And God goes, I'll be here if you want to change your mind. Felicia says this here. Maybe that's why we said, why do we try to convince you to follow God? It may be because you said we need that light bulb moment. Figure to understand that God is the great I am. How else to convince them than to get them to come to church, experience them for himself, give them the opportunity to get to know him on a personal level and not be scared to praise him, which goes into the fear thing. Why are we so scared to trust and obey God? We are scared. Absolutely. Absolutely. We are, and I think we're less scared of going to church, more scared of having a relationship with God. You look good in church, dress nice, sit in a pew, take a nice nap while the captain's preaching. It's all good. But, when you're alone in your prayer closet, you're alone in your room, it's another story. And so Jesus gets in there and goes to get in the boat. Demon-possessed man comes running after him and begins to beg to follow him. And Jesus wouldn't let him. He said, go home to your family. Tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. And I thought about that, and I thought of two different things. Well, no, they're together. This reminded me when I was watching this video again earlier today as a recap. The Incredibles. The movie The Incredibles. I'm always like, what? Syndrome, who is the bad guy in The Incredibles, begged to follow Mr. Incredible and to be his sidekick. And Mr. Incredible, told him no, but he told him in a different, more of a cocky way because, hey, I'm Mr. Incredible. I don't need a sidekick. But he said he wasn't ready. He wasn't, and Jesus here kind of doing the same. He's saying, listen, following me right now, physically following me isn't the right way. And I thought about why. This man had not been with his family. This man had been living in the tombs, right? So this isn't 2022. Nobody's got text messaging. There's no Twitter. There's no phones. There's no electricity, all right? This man's family would not have known that this happened to this man. And they may not have believed when word finally got back to them, because word would have. The town came out. They may not have all believed. But the moment this man walks in his right mind, they're going to believe. How do I know they're going to believe? Because the town told Jesus to get out when they saw him in his right mind. Salvation Army, William Booth said, go for souls and go for the worst. And one of the earliest converts in the Salvation Army, I've told the story, I think, in church. If not, I know I will. It was a gentleman, I forget his last name. His name was James. And the town called him Ash Barrel Jimmy. And they called him Ash Barrel Jimmy because he would be so drunk that many times he would fall asleep in the barrels where they would literally collect the ash from the heaters and furnaces and whatever else. And so he was filthy, he was homeless, he was drunk, and he was the lowest of the low. And he got saved at a Salvation Army tent meeting. And when he got saved, he reconnected with his family. He got cleaned up. He started wearing a uniform. He started preaching and teaching. And when people saw him, they knew that something was going on, and they wanted to know what it was. What was it that changed Jimmy? What was his last name?
It was James Kemp.
Yes.
And he was the first convert of the Salvation Army in America.
Correct. In Philadelphia. And that is how Eliza Shirley, I'm actually wanting to do this.
It was in New York, actually.
Oh, that's in New York. Sorry, my bad.
And it was to the point of, after spending a night in jail for public drunkenness, the magistrate took pity on him and said he didn't have to do more jail time if he sought out the services of the Salvation Army. And it's just an example of, so to this day, we still have the adult rehabilitation centers and the Harbor Light programs and stuff that is helping people the same way that the Army helped him years ago.
That's him there. Look how clean he is. Captain James Kemp, he became a captain in the Army. He didn't have to do much at the training school, but he became a captain in the Army, and there he is. And what the trickle down effect, he literally saved thousands. And in many ways, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Ash Barrel Jimmy, because the Army wouldn't have caught fire if people hadn't seen that. I think he was. It wasn't just Eliza Shirley. I think it was the Hallelujah Lassies in New York when they came over. Which, if you ever in New York, there's a plaque for where they landed. But yeah, so we are here because he was converted, and he spread the word, and it trickled down. And other people said, "Oh, if Jimmy could, maybe I could."
He was the first convert of George
Railton.
Scott Railton and the Seven Hallelujah Lassies.
See, I get my stories sometimes mixed up, but it all comes back. I knew it was Railton there. And so,
and it was within 5 days of them arriving in the United States. So,
and so Jesus here says to the demon-filled man, go back home, tell them what happened, show them what happened. And he's not just at this, and when he says family, he's not just talking about his, wife and kids. He's talking about his neighborhood. He's talking about, people he would have worked with. And it's not just go and tell them how much the Lord has done for you, has shown mercy on you. It's show them. And finally, I know we're wrapping up in time here, but he gets to the woman who is bleeding, and she comes and he hears about Jairus and about his daughter, and he's going there, and this woman who had been bleeding for 12 years, which, by the way, I always appreciate that the Bible, that this was happening, because it shows to me that there, this was something you didn't talk about in the Bible times. These are realities, and anything we go through is covered here. And this woman had been bleeding for 12 years. Her menstrual cycle never stopped, and she had to have been miserable, absolutely miserable, living this way. Not only that, she would have been deemed unclean. She would have been deemed that they're, not to be touched. She wouldn't have been able to have been married. So many things that she wouldn't have been able to go to the temple. In Jewish tradition, when women had their menstrual cycles, if I remember correctly, they weren't even allowed to go anywhere.
She shouldn't even have been in the crowd.
Right. You were not allowed around. It was up there with like leprosy on a different level.
Yeah, you are off on your own.
Yep. And so she comes running and diving to touch not Jesus, the hem of his garment, the tail end. Just let me get a little piece. That power that can come off of you. I said last week the story about the wrestler, the guy Antonio Inoki in Japan, and he just passed away, and he literally, wrestlers would line up to get slapped by him because they thought that they gave them fighting spirit. They just wanted to feel the energy from him. And he goes, so this woman's like, I just need to feel that, and I can get healed. There's much power. And that faith that I love that song, Felicia. That faith of I just got to get a piece of him. And Jesus feels it. And he tells her, go in peace and be freed from your suffering. So that healing wasn't just physical. It was, your life is now changed. You are now good. You're no longer going to suffer and have to deal with everything that you're going through. We focus on the bleeding, but there's the mental strife. There's the exclusion. There's the
mental, emotional,
thank you,
spiritual
damage.
Pain that she's been in, and damage, and now she's free of it.
And so Jesus had to have slept well after this, because then he gets going and he's heading to Jairus' house to see this girl. And, I'm a big fan. I'm a big hip hop fan, and there's a great early 2000s. It's called Hero the Rock Opera, and it's if Jesus's life was in modern day Brooklyn, and it's a tale with rock and hip hop and all pop music stars playing these roles, and there's a great song about this miracle. But he's coming in, and he looks around and says, the men from the house of the synagogue ruler, your daughter's dead, they said. Why bother the teacher anymore? And Jesus ignores what they said and told the synagogue ruler, just don't be afraid, just believe. Come back to don't be afraid. Boogeyman this time. Just believe. And he goes in and people are crying, and he says, child is not sleeping. He's not dead, just sleeping. And they laughed at him. And he goes and looks at her and says, and I love, little girl, I say to you, get up. And, Francis put it so much better, more eloquently than I could. But Jesus has just gone from two people whose faith were so strong. One's begging to get in the boat with him. One's begging to leave everything he has and has owned and his family and everything just to be in the boat with Jesus. And then you have a woman who is risking her life, literally, to get into a crowd, to just be able to touch threads of something that Jesus is wearing. And he goes from those two people to a synagogue ruler, in other words, pastor, and a room full of people, probably, the synagogue rulers there had some belief. They came to get Jesus. And he walks into a room where the synagogue ruler doesn't believe, doesn't accept it, and everybody else laughs at Jesus. And Jesus turns around and says to the little girl, you get up, you come to me. So Jesus heals those begging, and Jesus heals in the midst of doubt. Doesn't matter. He's Jesus. He's going to do what he needs to do within his will. And the thing is that little girl, had nothing to do with the people laughing. And Jesus knew that. And at that moment, by him being that compassionate to her, this was almost a moment that, while it could have been, and part of it was, hey, again, what you saw, report on. This was about the little girl. This was about the little girl. Sweetie, come here. Get out of your darkness. Come to me. So it's interesting how Jesus has moments where he does things because he wants people to know about his ministry, and he does things because he wants the word to get out and to people to know who he is, and all of that. We see those moments. We see those intentional. Listen, tomorrow we have, our Red Kettle kickoff. We're having a commercial drop tomorrow at noon, which please share on your Facebook that we made. And we're doing this party with the kids, and we invited the media, and the reason we want them now here is tomorrow is so we can get the word out about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And this commercial is for that. This is what we do. This is how we do that. That's the purpose of what we did that. But the purpose of, when we go ahead and do the actual kettles and we take the money and then we go, to the nursing home, or we go and visit the kid's house, or we go and drop off food somewhere, we're not having a camera with us. That's not for everybody else to see. That's for that person. When we're praying with someone at the altar, it's about that person. When we're meeting with somebody because of a need, that's about that person. It's not about that. And Jesus does both. Sometimes he's got to do stuff to get the word out so people know who he is, so his ministry can go and the word gets around. But then there's times where he just says, come here, sweetie, this is about you. And so I find that very interesting about Jesus's ministry, and it shows that there is a little bit of both that's needed. You need to be able to stand up in public and talk about who Jesus is and what he's done in your life on bigger scales, and spread the word sometimes, and have those conversation starters. And that's why you wear those y'all need Jesus t-shirts, and that's why you put the bumper stickers on your car, and that's why you make Facebook posts with scripture verses and all that stuff. You need those moments. We need to get the word out that way. But you also need to go over to your neighbor and go, how are you feeling today? And that's about, nobody else is going to know about that. Nobody else is going to know about that. And so that's what Jesus shows here. I wish that we could get more into with the little girl and the woman there, but I definitely look at the clock and see that. And so I know we're going a little over. Thank you guys for jumping in. My wife's going to close us in a word of prayer here in a second. Just a reminder, though, this will be the last one until January because of kettles and everything. And just please pray for financial miracles. We need a financial miracle this year. And so pray for that. Share the commercial tomorrow. It'll be dropping on YouTube and Facebook at 12. Try to get it on Instagram. We'll see if that goes. But please share so people can kind of see. And because it's called Because You Gave. And it's all localized. It's all videos and photos from here in Berwick, and it shows what we've done. And we want people to see that their money is going to really change lives. So I hope you'll enjoy it and share it in your circles. So yes, just all of that, and be in prayer for Red Kettles, Christmas, Thanksgiving distribution on Monday, and all the other craziness we got through. So, Kat, you want to close us out?
Yeah. So, Father God, we just thank you for this reminder tonight. As we are preparing to take a break from this study for the holiday season, this is a good reminder for us as we go into it that you are still doing miracles. There are times when word needs to be shouted from the rooftops of what you are doing, but there are times when you still come. Little girl, little boy, child, come here. Let me take care of you. And that you are still taking care of us. So just continue to let us marinate on this and what we've talked about so far in the book of Mark, and lead us to something else that you have for us this holiday season to learn from your word, and continue to be with us as we go our separate ways tonight, and continue to care and love for each and every one of us. God, I pray for health for those who are watching. I pray that you can continue to look over them. I pray for the work of the Salvation Army this holiday season, that every person that we interact with can see why we do what we do. And it's all because of you. We thank you and love you, Lord. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right. We love you guys. Stay close to Jesus. And those in town, we'll see you on Sunday. And those not, we'll see you next time we look at you. Take care. Bye. Thank you.